Whenever I'm working with type predominantly for my logo, I'm always trying to add in something that they can take and use out, because it allows me to just sleep well at night knowing that it's going to work everywhere for them in the future, or an element of it is going to work well for them in the future. Making word marks work responsively and responsibly. I've dived into this a little bit, but like a lot of you would have seen, especially when it comes to the word marks, logo types that I like to create, I'm always trying to compromise, find ways of making them have longevity, create some timeless nature to them. And in this little beauty, I'm going to give you some practical tips and tricks. I'm going to share more of these through like a practical session in a later module, but just give you some ideas of how you can, you might be thinking right now of like, I'd love to do word marks and build more logo types, but I'm not too sure how I can make them work everywhere. In this module, in this lesson, I keep getting the modules and lessons mixed up. Within this lesson 5 of module 3, I'm going to give you some tips and tricks of how you can possibly start to do that. All right. So, number 1, create some responsive options for your clients. This is obviously the simplest way to give a particular design some longevity. Like always work with reference to like, what is going to be the main lockup, which one's going to work in most amount of places. But that's maybe this, for example, this jungle culture, this works everywhere, like 85% of the time. But there might be some options on the back of packaging, or on some small little tags on clothing, or on social media, on like a corner of a tile or something, where there might need to be some responsive options. So for this particular design, what I did was I took out the J and the C for jungle culture and gave them a square version and a vertically stacked version of the JC using some of the little bamboo shoot leaves. So there's still that recognition. These are only used very, very rarely, like I said, like 10 to 15% of the time. But what it did was give my clients some extra options. So, and this is obviously the simplest way to give your client those applicable assets that they can use on certain things. Like I said, this all came from a conversation about the application in the early discovery stages. Like I had some of their products with me, and they had like these lovely little kind of like hemp bags, but then they had these little tags on them, and in some cases they still use the jungle culture type, but now because of the shape of them, they're rectangular. Like I said, I wanted to use this kind of JC stacked and then this square option, because those are the two types of tags they were using. So that is one way that you can make it responsive. Take out elements. So in this case, like I said, very simply, the J, the C, and the bamboo leaves, locked it up in a little block. Bing, bang, bosh, they've got a submark, which helps with their responsive layouts and application. Done. Number 2, you heard me talk about this a minute ago, the MBJ stacker. Now, this is something I tend to use a fair bit, because what it does, it allows me to create horizontal and vertical options of my type choices. So what I do, and this again essentially works really well if you've got, the dark room, or Hound and How. I did one for Roxy Velez, which was in the same kind of standard, the same kind, used the MBJ stacker, but it's usually when you got two names or two words and you're trying to balance them. And I always like to go with like the kind of what do you call it, the vertical stack as my kind of primary. But then I'm thinking like, well, maybe on a website the header would have to be much bigger. If I gave them a vertical option or a horizontal option, the header could be quite short or a lot shorter. So this is always what I'm thinking is like the longevity. Where is it going to be used? And most people have a website now. So the MBJ stacker allows you to do just that. So we've got the dark, and then we've got the room underneath here, and I've built them so they're very balanced with reference to their height and very balanced with reference to their width. So it's very easy for me to then take the room from this one, from the dark, and put it up next to it, and it still reads as the dark room. So they have a vertically stacked and a horizontally stacked, and the same with Hound and Howl. So I've got my two layers, my two grids here above each other. So I write Hound in this one, and I write and Howl in this one. You know, you can start to see how the letters are balancing. I saw Hound is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 letters. Howl is 1, 2, 3, 4. So what I can do is I can bring the and down to fill in that gap for the extra letter, and that's how I can balance it. But now, Hound and Howl, we've got our vertically stacked doctrine, which is the one that they use all the time. But then for their websites, they can, if they want to, take this and slot it here. It makes it's a really easy way of creating stackable, modular, what we can call it, MBJ stacker module type. And it's a great way for you to have some sort of structure to build within and make it work for responsive options. So that was my trick that I always had, which is now yours. Enjoy it. Enjoy it forever. The compromise that helps the word mark shine. Now we talked earlier on in one of the modules about like if we can't convince our clients to go fully into a word mark, like how can we compromise? And this is something that I generally try and do as standard, unless it was like within the word you or rice, where they're short enough to possibly work small enough. If I want to lead into a logo type or a word mark and the word is slightly long, I'm always trying to add in a responsive element. So, or a symbol, or a unique element, I should say, that can be taken out and used as a mark and as a symbol. So with this company, the 19th, which is a kind of urban apparel brand within the kind of golfing industry, what we did, I think, very similar to, I don't know if any golfers are here, but Malbon. Have you heard of Malbon? You might not have heard them, but they're very cool. Like, I would wear their clothes, and I don't play a lot of golf. That's how cool they are. Do you know what I mean? Not saying that I'm cool. It's just that they kind of lent into that very kind of cool street vibe, that very comfortable clothing that isn't very golfy. You know, collars, corduroys, not corduroys. What are the other ones called?
Oh yeah.
Chinos and shoes. So yeah, with the 19th, obviously it was so long, and we wanted to go for this kind of unique hand-drawn script style type, but like trying to make that scale not so easy. So what I did was I made sure that the first letter, the N in this case, was also unique enough. So we've got like a little T flag on the left-hand side of the N, and then we've got this kind of cool sweeping N shape, which kind of can be taken out and used as a mark, a symbol. It can be used as like a little note, like an emblem, as an apparel thing on the chest, a little mark on the sleeve possibly. It can be used on social media. But what it does, it gives them responsive options within the word mark itself, within the logo type itself. And this is, you know, I would say like 80% of the time, this is something that I will always lean into, whether I'm working, like whenever I'm working with type predominantly for my logo, I'm always trying to add in something that they can take and use out, because it allows me to just sleep well at night knowing that it's going to work everywhere for them in the future, or an element of it is going to work well for them in the future, especially as ultimately we're probably going more digital. We're not going to be going more print anytime soon, unfortunately, are we? So more digital, always thinking of the future. And finally, the last little thing I want you to leave you with here was have tons of fun. Like, I've witnessed, like when I started creating logos and was in the design world, it felt free, it felt fun, and I think what's happened is with the rise of social media, the rise of being able to compare your work to others, the ability to hear all of these experts telling you that a logo should be simple and boring and all the rest of it's really important and all wow, 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 wow. Do you know what I mean? It feels like the fun's been sucked out of creativity. So I really want you to remember this, because this is something that I've really tried to lean into more and more and more as my career has progressed. And what that's actually done is allowed my work to stand out more and more and more, which has allowed me to get bigger budgets. So the more fun you have, I guarantee the better work you'll do, and the happier you'll make your clients. You know, if you're being too safe and you're kind of listening to the rules too much, yes, we have to understand principles, we have to understand contrast, hierarchy, alignment, all of these things, balance, super important. But we are creative people. We have to be able to express ourselves at our work, as long as it fits within the brief, obviously. You've got to know the rules to be able to break them. But I guarantee the more you break them, the more your work will stand out, the more you'll become recognised within the industry, the bigger budgets you'll get, the better portfolios you'll build, and the more fun you'll have, because you'll be able to do more of the work that you want to do. So type is going to help you do that. Exploring with type, font pairing, word marks, logo types, monograms, or whatever it is, like working with type will give you this ability to be able to play more, and never stop having fun. All right, please.